to respond.
Now, I personally was completely unaware that the repression has crossed borders, reaching the Cambodian community here in Japan and casting a shadow over their lives. We have Professor Ichihara Maiko, an international political scientist, joining us today to tell us more. Professor Ichihara, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
So you've spoken with the Cambodia diaspora. Do you see transnational repression increasing within these communities?
Well, unfortunately, yes. There has been repression going on, up until recently too. But these days, there has been an increased surveillance going on. And those intimidation intends to attack people, activists mentally, so that they won't be able to continue their activities.
And would you say other resident Asian activists also experience transnational repression?
Yes. Unfortunately, this has become very much an international trend. So in addition to Cambodians, for example, Chinese government has been harassing the activists beyond borders, and also people like regime like Pakistan has been doing the same. And in addition to those authoritarian countries, some democracies are doing the same. For example, India has been harassing journalists, opposition party leaders, NGO leaders, as well as scholars who are critical of the Indian government, especially on democracy and human rights fronts.
And we just saw in the report how some governments control people outside their borders. Could you tell us more about how governments do that?
There are actually multiple methods that they use. And some of the methods include, for example, the creation of surveillance network. China is a typical example. Chinese students create these Chinese student associations on campuses, and some of them have connections with the Chinese embassy in Japan. And with this connection, the Chinese embassy tries to control the Chinese scholars and students on campus. And other methods include, for example, indirect intimidation, where the regime gives harassment and intimidation to family members of those activists back home. And in addition to that, more direct methods are taken as well. Sometimes the activists are harassed verbally in person, and sometimes they also receive phone calls of intimidation, and they also occasionally will receive physical violence as well.
And you have an initiative where you step in to support diaspora activists that are facing persecution, correct? Could you tell us more about your initiative?
Sure. I launched this program called Democracy Advocates at Risk last year. This is a brand new program in Asia, whereas same type of programs have been there in Western countries. We intend to host those activists whose lives are at stake in Asia at Asian democratic countries. And this is basically a network of Asian scholars from democratic countries. And we host those democracy advocates at our universities, either as visiting scholars, or part-time lecturers, or students to provide temporary refuge.
Now, within this reality of foreign nationals in Japan facing pressure and coercion from their home countries, how do you think the Japanese government should respond to all this?
Well, this is a very serious violation of Japanese sovereignty itself. So Japan has to take its ownership. Repression going on trans-border, meaning that, this is happening in Japan. In addition to the fact that it's a violation of the sovereignty, this is a violation of human rights norms, apparently, and human rights norm violation of not only those Asian people who are living in Japan, but also human rights norms of Japan and the Japanese people. So the Japanese government should take leadership of orchestrating coalition of governments who are facing the same kind of situation. And when it comes to China, there has been this intergovernmental coalition of parliamentarians acting against China. But when it comes to other countries, more has to be done.
Thank you so much for your insight, Rosie Chihara.